All right, so you decided to stick around for this. Some of you are thinking, did I have the choice to leave? It's probably too late now. My name is Darren McKnight, and I'm going to deliver the message today. If you're a guest with us for the first time, rest assured, I'm not the pastor. Pastor Bob went on vacation, and he promised me that he's coming back. Last Sunday, Bob talked to us about outreach and mission. I would like to build upon that message this week. My lesson is titled, The Gift of Discomfort. As far as I know, discomfort is not a spiritual gift. I'm here to change that. I think that being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable is a gift. And it's a gift that if you embrace will allow you to have more excitement in your life and live a life that is more full. Before we get started, though, I want to tell you a little bit about the pictures that you're seeing up here on the screen. The middle picture is one of the third floor classrooms upstairs. That classroom, that is what it looks like right before the families come for Family Promise. The last time they were here was in June, and it was the first time that I was involved in Family Promise. The families came in and the kids saw this room and they were very excited. They saw the natural light streaming in. They weren't in the basement, and they got really pumped when we told them that the sleeping bags were theirs to keep. The other pictures that you see is from our first movie manicure and face painting night. That happened on Saturday, which is the last night that the families were there with us. And so we had Max Beals create these wonderful masterpieces out of kids' cheeks. And we had Katrina turn the third floor into a high-end nail salon. I spent the entire night at the microwave because we provided popcorn. I now know that we need to buy that pre-popped. We will make that adjustment going forward. So this week, actually today, is the first day of our next rotation. I just received the information on the families that are going to be joining us in a few hours. We have 4 families, and it's going to be comprised of 9 kids, and the ages are from 2 to 18. And so we will be welcoming them into the third floor. Our classrooms will turn into bedrooms for the week. And so I encourage you that if you have not been a part of this mission, and you think that it might be something that you and your family would be good for you and your family, please take that next step. There's a few spots still on the sign-up sheet that we need. And if you have kids or you like face painting, having your nails done, popcorn, the movie will start Saturday at 7 o'clock. Family Promise is just one of the many amazing missions here at this church. Before we get started into the real meat of the lesson, I think it would be beneficial for me to tell you a little bit about myself. It's always nice to get pictures, so I'm going to tell you about myself as we go here. My parents spent a significant portion of their childhood in the Amazon rainforest. They were missionary kids, and so their stories include outhouses, bathing in the Amazon River, and listening to the howling monkeys in the middle of the night. It's a little different than my childhood in the suburbs of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I grew up in a middle-class family. My mom just retired from teaching in elementary school, and my dad is a machinist at the company, the manufacturing facility that he's worked at for the past since he was 18. As a child, I did not have to worry about much. I was never hungry, except during wrestling season, but that was my choice. I rarely missed a day of school. I was expected to do well, and I had the support to allow me to do well. College was not a given, however, it was strongly suggested, and I knew the path to get me there. I started the sport of wrestling in the 5th grade, and it consumed my life until I graduated from Michigan State. After winning 3 state titles in Tennessee, I was recruited by Michigan State. It was the only Big Ten school that was showing interest in me, so I took the challenge and traveled the 700 miles to campus in East Lansing. After a very tough and humbling first 2 years in the program, I eventually made my way into the starting lineup and was ranked in the top 20 for the last 3 years, qualifying for 3 NCAA tournaments. I met my wife, Ashley, at Michigan State my freshman year. Ashley was in the athletic training program at Michigan State and was assigned an internship with the wrestling program my freshman year. Ashley had just wrapped up a semester being the trainer for Tom Izzo and the basketball team, so her assignment with the wrestling team was viewed by her as a significant demotion. After a relentless pursuit that lasted 2 years, Ashley finally agreed to go on a date with me. We went to see The Matrix in the theater. I believe that it was the last movie that we have seen together that would not fall in the romantic comedy genre. I work as a public accountant, and Ashley is an occupational therapist in the spinal cord department at Mary Free Bed. We've been married for 7 years, and it's about the same amount of time that we've been members of this church. We have a 3-year-old daughter, Lila, who loves horses, and my 1-year-old son, Hudson, works at an accounting firm downtown. Our involvement in the church and in the community includes the following. We're the site coordinators for Family Promise. That's a new thing. This will be our second week. I'm the chair of the Social Concerns Committee here. I'm president of the Westminster Food Pantry. That's what we did the coffee can for, so thank you. Ashley's a member of Junior League and the chair of the Community Impact Committee within that organization. I teach junior achievement. I'm a board member for the City of Grand Rapids, and I serve on some committees within my professional responsibilities. What we're going to cover today. Over the next few hours, I would like to cover the following topics. What? I want to first give you a new perspective on where you are on your journey, and I'm going to give you a call to action. I'm going to stress the importance of being uncomfortable. We're going to learn the importance of building a strong personal brand and expanding your influence or your reach within your networking community. If all goes according to plan, I'm going to be able to bring it all together at the end. First, for a new perspective. I can't figure this out. I mentioned earlier that I'm a public accountant. The firm that I work for is Ernst & Young. It's one of the biggest service providers in the world. I have worked hard in my 8.5 career as an accountant, and at the age of 32, I am in the top 1% of the highest paid people in the world. And I am also among the world's wealthiest 5%. Ashley's sitting right there. She's like, but I've been asking for a new refrigerator ever since we bought the house. So, what does it take to be in the top 5% of the wealthiest people in the world? You need to have equity in your home of approximately $50,000, value of possessions of any kind, $10,000, and $150,000 in investments. That includes retirement. To be in the top 1% of the world's highest earners, you would need to earn net wages of $35,000. To put this into further perspective, to be in the top 1% of the highest earners in the United States, you would need to have gross income of $307,000. I do not fit into that category. I'm a visual person. Perhaps you are as well. Here's a chart that shows the distribution of the world's wealth. Let me help you with this. The left side, so this side right here, shows, as an individual, how much wealth you have. So this piece right here is people in the world that have wealth of less than $10,000. So the right side is the amount of total wealth that resides in that bucket. So as you can see, we have 70% of the world's population that fits into this category. 70% have 2.9% of the world's wealth. Up here in this little sliver are people that have greater than $1 million of wealth. They control wealth of greater than that amount. 44% of the world's wealth resides in that sliver. So, global wealth in 2014 was $262 trillion. That comes out to $56,000 for every adult on Earth, if wealth was distributed evenly. However, the reality is that 95% of the world's wealth is held by 20% of the world's population. Put another way, 80% of the world's population is left to survive on 5% of the world's wealth. These are some pretty eye-opening stats, but what does this mean? What impact does it have? Poverty is difficult to escape. This chart addresses the difficulty of rising out of poverty if you were born into or spent any part of your childhood in poverty. As you would expect, the greater time that you spent as a child in poverty, the higher the likelihood that you will remain in poverty. So let's focus on these numbers. If you spent half of your childhood in poverty, you would have a 45% chance of remaining in poverty at the age of 35. Please note that these stats are just for the U.S. If we were to chart the same stats for the world, it would be a much worse picture. The research is well documented in this area. Children in poverty are at significant socioeconomic disadvantage, and the odds are stacked against them starting on day one of their lives. Can you imagine if on day one, on the day that you were born, it was known that you have a 45% chance of remaining in poverty your whole life? Further, can you imagine carrying the weight of that reality as a parent of that child? As I mentioned earlier, I have worked hard to get to this point in my life. But that is really all I had to do, is work hard. To get to this point in my life has actually been pretty easy when I stop to think about it. I had opportunities laid out for me. My parents took care of all of that. I didn't realize it at the time, but I do now. I wrestled a lot, and it helped pay for my college. Sure, I put in long hours at practice. I spent a lot of time in the weight room. But the main reason that I had success in wrestling was that my dad sacrificed his time and had the financial ability to take me all over the country for wrestling tournaments. I would not have become good enough or gotten noticed by college coaches by hard work alone. I earned a college degree. I worked hard at school and graduated with an accounting degree that I was immediately able to gain full-time employment with. In fact, I had a full-time job lined up over a year before I had graduated. I only had to focus on school. I did not need to worry about getting to school, being hungry at school, or if I would receive the help that I needed to complete my assignments. My parents took care of all of that for me. I had access to resources to get me into college and keep me into college. I had help navigating the college application and financing process, and my parents helped me with finances at many times during my college years. While finances were tight during college, and I will be paying on student loans for a significant portion of my life, I never had to worry much about it. I could focus on wrestling and school. My personal call to action is to try to give others, as many people as possible, opportunities to be successful so that they can focus on working hard and not focus on the things that I didn't have to worry about. Everyone's call to action will come from a different place or experience. The topic of Ashley's thesis was understanding the needs of women that are experiencing homelessness and the needs that are not being addressed in the shelters. Ashley spent a lot of time interacting with the women in the shelters and researching the topic. Ashley's become passionate about addressing this need. So check this out. Everything that you have done and every decision that you have made has led up to this very moment. That's powerful. No matter what your background is, the decisions that you've made, your failures and your accomplishments, you are here, and that is where God wants you to be. We are all here together in this place. Imagine the impact that we can make. Take a moment to give yourself a call to action. What are you most passionate about? Where will you get involved or increase your involvement? Okay. Now that you've given that some thought as to what your call of action is, it is time to get uncomfortable. Let me start this section by giving a quote. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I love this quote, and I want to strongly urge you to incorporate this philosophy into your life as much and as often as possible. In my opinion, one of your goals should be to have as big a comfort zone as possible and know that your comfort zone is never big enough. So what types of things will expand our comfort zones? Anything new. Anything that we are not very knowledgeable about. And oftentimes, these things involve risks. These are scary things, right? Sure, that's true. But as the slide shows, this is also where the magic happens. Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Don't you want more? Don't others need more help? If you don't mind, I would like to give you some examples from my life of times that I have grown by first getting uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable right now. This is the biggest group of people I've ever talked to for more than 3 minutes. The first host week of Family Promise was quite uncomfortable for my wife and I. The role that I thought I was supposed to fill was very different than the role that those families needed me to fill. I feel more confident going into this week, but my learning in this Family Promise initiative is only just beginning. Ashley's feeling quite uneasy about starting her doctorate program while working at Mary Free Bed, raising 2 small children, and juggling more responsibility with Junior League and Family Promise. It would have been very easy for her to say, no, now's not the right time. Her classes start next week. About 2.5 months ago, I switched accounting firms. I went from being a senior manager in a much smaller firm to a manager in a very large firm. In my opinion, there was quite a bit of career risk involved in that decision. But there's also quite a bit of growth that can happen and has happened so far. So I challenge you to be more uncomfortable in almost every aspect of your life, as often as you can. If you are feeling uncomfortable, that's called a growing pain. Now think about your call to action. The subject alone might be uncomfortable. Give it some thought and figure out what your first step outside of your comfort zone will be. Will you volunteer for the first time? Will you step into a leadership role? Will you start a brand new mission? You will get to the point where you have to do some pretty crazy things to get uncomfortable. That's when things start to get really exciting. I mentioned to my wife just the other day that I would like to consider moving to China for a long-term work arrangement. That was not well received. So you have determined, she didn't know that was in here. So you have determined a cause that you are passionate about and how you will take the first step or the next step. Now it's time to incorporate it into your personal brand. Let's get into the right mindset. So let's look at a couple of examples of brands. When you see this iconic symbol, what do you immediately start to think? Innovation, technology, there's probably some other things that you think about as well. It's just a symbol. Apple's the most valuable brand in the world and is worth approximately $145 billion. Apple's a leader in providing technology that is powerful yet easy to use. Its customer base is diverse from children to professionals. Apple's a genius at building a brand that people almost can't live without, or at least they believe that they can't live without. People's phones, computers, watches, television, and content are connected, making it nearly impossible to switch brands. Let's not build a brand this way. Abercrombie. Abercrombie is a brand that has made its money by charging a premium for clothes for cool kids. Clothes that you could wear if you want to fit in. The CEO actually said that. Abercrombie was successful in selling this image for a while, but those days are quickly coming to an end as the store has no answer for its competition, H&M and Forever 21. Teenagers have changed over the years, and they now desire to have their own style, one that is unique. However, it appears that Abercrombie is going to hold on tight to its cool kid image all the way to bankruptcy. What makes a strong personal brand? Everybody has a personal brand. Your brand is what you communicate and demonstrate to others and how others view and interact with you. Think of your personal brand as a combination of your LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter profiles. It includes your professional and personal experience and reputation. Building your personal brand is a topic that people have dedicated entire seminars and books to. For today, let's just focus on bringing in your outreach, your passion for helping others into your brand. I think that a good way to approach this is by looking at what all strong brands have. The apples, not the Abercrombies. First, people must need or want your product. This one's easy. Your call to action has identified a need in the community, and you are passionate about it. Your product is aimed at addressing that need. Second, You must be an expert. Once you have identified the need that you would like to address, you need to become an expert at it. This will take time, but it is an important step in branding yourself and building credibility. Becoming an expert in addressing the need that you have identified will involve hands-on experience and research. I also suggest that you increase your role in addressing the cause as often as possible. I'd like to give you an example. Several months ago, when we decided to become coordinators for Family Promise, I reached out to the Family Promise organization to see what kind of leadership position I could hold. The way that I thought about it is that if I'm going to devote a significant amount of time and passion into this organization, I should also be involved in making decisions for the organization. Due to my accounting skills, I'm currently serving on the finance committee of the organization, and I will continue to work my way onto the board of directors. Third, your message is clear and consistent. This is your advertising. I would encourage you to think about the way that you are communicating your brand on a daily basis. Is your brand consistent among all of your environments? Your work, your home, on social media, etc. When your outreach comes up in conversation, does it ever come to a surprise as the person you're talking to about it? It should not. Fourth, create influence. This is the most difficult part of your brand to build. It takes all of the other qualities to come together in order to create influence. Influence is created when you have people that believe in the cause and follow you. You might be the one that makes them believe in the cause in the first place. Think about LinkedIn influencers. These are the people that have the most followers and are posting content often. Increasing influence also means getting others involved. Spreading the word and creating awareness is not enough. You must create opportunities for others to become involved and help them to become leaders and influencers as well. Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote, "You become what you think about all day long," is all about personal branding. As promised, let's bring it all together. So what did we do today? We all chose a cause that we care about, a need to address, a way to help people. We have decided to get uncomfortable and stay uncomfortable, remembering that the magic happens outside the comfort zone. We have incorporated our passion for helping others into our personal brand, and we have committed to building that brand and influencing and empowering others for truly a ripple effect in the community. We will make an impact.